Oh, good morning. I nearly just elbowed my bottle of water off. What a way to start. Hello. How are we doing? Are we good? Good morning. It is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. If you subscribe to the Hump Day way of thinking, if you don't, happy Wednesday to you regardless. Who is first past the post this morning? Make sure you pop your comments in the comment box if you are watching along on my personal profile, Dani Wallace, and you want to comment along. And you will this morning get amongst the conversation this morning. Me and our guests have much to talk about and much to speak about over the next hour. So please get over to the Queen Bee Dani page on Facebook and comment along there. If you're watching on my personal profile, Dani Wallace, we're streaming to 4 places today. We're streaming to Dani Wallace. We're streaming to the IATQB Hive. Good morning, Queen Bees, if you're watching in the Hive. And we're streaming to the Queen Bee Dani on Facebook. We are also streaming to YouTube. So good morning, YouTubers, if you are there. First past the post this morning, Diane Ivory. Good morning, Diane Ivory. How are you, my lovely? Joanne Smith, crowns at the ready. If you are wearing a crown along with us this morning, then please do pop us in your stories on Instagram and tag us. Tag me, the Queen Bee Dani, and when Fidel comes on, we will give you his Insta tag as well. Make sure you tag us in any of the stories that you're posting along on Insta as we are chatting today. Good morning, Laura. Good morning, Laura. Good morning, Christina. Good morning, Gillian. Thank you very much for the weather updates. Let me put on a little bit of lippy and we'll do the shit weather. Hang on. Oh, beautiful. I'm feeling the orange vibes this morning. As something a little bit different from the mute film noir situation I was serving you yesterday. You'll be pleased that I'll be mixing up lots of different looks with my grey. Look, it's still popping through in my quiff. Dig in it. All right, let's do the weather. What is the weather doing where you are in the world? Do tell me. In Preston, it is a bit shit. Again, it feels like we've had one day of sunshine and that is it. It's overcast. We've got a bit shit in the Durham area. I'll just pop that in the northeast. Anybody got anything different for me in the northeast, do give me a shout. Whereabouts are you watching from in the UK or indeed the world? If you're from anywhere else in the world other than the UK, we will represent you up here in the sea. Good morning, Sam Taylor Layton. Hello, stranger, from a windy and cloudy North Wales. It's a bit shit in North Wales. There we go. We've got an It's a Bit Shit bee for you there. Tell me what's popping. How are we feeling about Hump Day this week? It's bright and breezy in Brum. I'll check your little scotchy off for Birmingham just there. There you go, Birmingham. Have a little scotchy or bee. Anything other than It's a Bit Shit, we'll get a scorchy or bee or a rainy bee. We do need to talk about some other bees, don't we, Joanne? I do keep saying this. It's a bit shit in my corner of Cheshire. Should we move the It's a Bit Shit bit across? Let's hook Cheshire up. There we go. We've got a big bee there. We'll sort you out over in Cheshire. Good morning. It's overcast in Hertfordshire, Cambridge. Let me find some more. Oh, look at this. Hang on. Hertfordshire, Cambridge. We're over here, aren't we? Hang on. And we're going to fit you all in now, look. There you go. It is beautiful in Norfolk. The east is getting the sunshine. Hello, Norfolk, come through. Overcast in Bromley, Kent. It's a bit shit in Kent this morning. Oh, my goodness, we've got a mixed bag. Look in the middle, just getting the sunshine there like that. It's cloudy in Somerset. Sunny, but a bit windy in Kent. Hang on a minute, Kent. Don't be confusing me. We'll mix it up a little bit. We'll pop you there and we'll pop you there. Well, it's a right mixed bag today. You like it? Hang on a minute. We need more It's a Bit Shit bees for Somerset. Hello, Somerset. In my best farmer's accent. It's not really a farmer's accent, is it? It's a Somerset accent. We've run out of It's a Bit Shit bees. Look at that. It's a bit shit through the UK today. Oh, my goodness. Right, you guys. I don't want to muck about today. Because I've been well excited about having this particular guest on our show. When we talk about what it is to be female, what it is to be male, what it is to be man, what it is to be woman, and we are talking in the binary this morning. And the reason we're talking in the binary is not to exclude, but it is my lived experience to be female, and it is this person's lived experience to be male. If you have any other experiences and want to contribute to the conversation, please do come through. We would love to get you involved in the comments section. We're going to be talking about what it means to be a thoroughly modern man as we chat this morning to the devilishly handsome, the fabulously wonderful, the incredibly knowledgeable Mr. Fidel Beauhill, the modern man. Good morning.
That was just like the best intro ever.
I am really good at bringing people
You are really good at this. I'm also impressed with your geographical knowledge of the British counties.
I don't know. I make it
Cambridgeshire? What? I don't even know where that is. I've heard of it.
Neither do I. But
just hit in the middle.
I just thought it's definitely not above the Watford Gap, which makes it north, and we can get away with anything above the Watford Gap. If it's below the Watford Gap, again, it's south. So and the bees are big enough. So Kent's over here. Whereabouts are you?
Bristol, Somerset, Farmer. I'm with Zala.
Is it a bit shit where you are?
It's a bit shit. Yeah, not for long though.
So we are wearing our crowns this morning. We have King Fidel on the show. We have Queen Bee, Dani Wallace, going head to head in love and in the spirit of coming together and in the spirit of discussing what it means right now and what it's meant, I guess, to be a modern man or a modern woman, because I love watching what you post on Facebook, because sometimes it can be a little bit polarizing, even though a lot of what you say, actually, when you boil it down, makes sense, and people get to choose what they do with the information.
Correct, which is always interesting to watch, isn't it?
So talk to me first of all, my angel, about what it is that you do, because again, the work you do, I think, is mega fucking important.
Yeah, I kind of do a few things, and it's quite difficult to put my finger on it, really. So on a personal level, I'm a coach. I'm an NLP master coach, hypnotherapist, and I work with guys mainly who have been through divorces, breakups, midlife crisis. They just get to a point where they kind of lost who they are, their identity in long-term relationships and stuff like that, and now all of a sudden they're faced with a life ahead of them, and not really knowing where they're going with it, what they want to do with it. So I help them find their purpose.
Yeah.
So that's what I do on a kind of individual kind of business level. On the wider scale, I run the Modern Man Club and the Modern Woman Club.
And the Modern Woman Club, I love this. You know, it speaks to the feminist in me, but again, the conversations that go on, because I'm a member of that group, because I was interested. I wanted to know, like, who is this man telling us what to do?
Wow, I still get that in there, mind. And a lot of people left when I came back into the group. It was a bit triggery for a few people. For some reason, a man in the presence of women means it's not a safe space anymore.
Right. And that's one of the things that I'd love to talk about this morning on our little journey together over the next hour, because it's not before we like get into this and roll our sleeves up. Right. We've got a post for a crown pick in the first instance, so let's do this and get it out of the way. Are you ready? After 3, 1, 2, 3. Right, so that's the pose. What is your surname? Because I think people are going to be tagging you.
Beauhill, Beauhill. I'm the only one in the whole wide world, apart from my daughters.
The only one. Nice. So, but if we're tagging you on Instagram, is it the Modern Man?
Yeah, it's at the Modern Man Coach.
Perfect. Okay, so you've got your one-to-one work where you help men navigate life changes.
Correct.
Then you've got
the bigger mission really is about figuring out the questions you were just asking. What does it mean to be a modern man? What does it mean to be a modern woman? We can't go backwards. No one wants that. It's impossible for many, many reasons. So what we need to do is kind of come up with a new way of how we're going to interact and see each other, and just be. So that's kind of like my bigger mission, is to bring men and women back together again under the banner of separate but not divided. I think we both have work to do in our individual spaces. We can only think about that in those separate spaces. But rather than excluding each other and it being us versus them, you versus us, and all of this sort of stuff, it's about, right, let's go make ourselves better so we can bring that back to the community, so we can bring that back to all the other groups.
And that's it. So there is a lot of fear online and in real life from women when we talk about the patriarchy, when we talk about, historical patriarchy, we talk about the suppression and the oppression of women. It makes conversations, when you've got men like yourself that are actually trying to lead the way, bring the communities together, accept the fact that we are different beings. Biologically, we are different. We are made up from a component point of view, from a way that our brains work. If we take out the constructs from around us, we work intrinsically in different ways.
Hormones and biology and all of that sort of stuff plays a massive part in our behavior and our reactions to things and the way that we deal with stuff. I think also just kind of like dismissing something as a social construct is a massive problem. We go, oh, well, that's just a societal construct. What? It's not just a societal construct, right? A, there's no, just because it's a societal construct, it doesn't inherently make it a bad thing. Like, there's a reason why lots of societal constructs are in existence and have survived for so long, because they actually work. We are in a society, right? We need to construct stuff to help us live together in a better way. So,
But the problem happens when it gets turned up or amplified in such a way that it makes it dangerous elsewhere. That's where the danger happens. And it's only with us having the conversation about, okay, so how do we turn the dials so we're both, you know, at the same volume, but again, working within our differences together.
So the biggest problem for me, and I use this example with when we have the conversation around race as well, it's like this whole thing of, this thing is, if we talk about differences and if we focus on differences, then what we're doing is being divisive. And I just disagree with that so vehemently. Like, that is because it's impossible. We can't do that. And it's a lie. It's a nonsense. When I see you, I see a woman. Do you know what I mean? Difficult to miss, isn't it? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a bloke. It's like, if you don't see me, you're not seeing my lived experience, as you described it. Like, I'm a bloke with a beard, I'm mixed race, you know, see all of me, because it's a massive contributor to who I am and the way that I'm going to behave, the way that I'm going to be reactive, the way that I want to be treated. It's massive. I mean, I don't want to be treated like a 5-year-old girl, do I? Do you know what I mean? Because I'm a 44-year-old man. Don't tell me you're going to treat me the same, because you're not. It's cool. What I don't want you to do is treat me worse or better because of those differences.
Right, absolutely. You said something the other day that really made me think, and it was a proper light bulb moment for me. In that, I say light bulb moment for me, it's something that I'd like to think that I do anyway, but I see a huge amount of people behaving like this, trying to communicate. And this is, if I talk about relationships now for a second, trying to communicate with men as if they are women.
Oh, that one. I remember that one. That
There's a difference. It was a really good. I got my popcorn out. I sat down with a brew. There is a difference between communication and communicating in the wrong way. It's good that people want to communicate, and there's no reason to be a knobhead in your reactions. But tell us a little bit more about what your thoughts are on communicating within the sexes. Again, we're talking binary because this is mine and Fidel's lived experience, not everyone else's.
We're going to talk binary. We're also going to talk in generalizations, right? And this is where everybody gets uppity. They go, well, I don't do it like that. And well, I know somebody that doesn't. And it's like, do you know what?
There's a spectrum, everyone's on it. I
get bored with going some men or most women anyway, right? So
let's talk in the binary for the purpose of this particular conversation.
One of the biggest things I've seen is running the two groups. So there's 1,200 guys in the man club and there's about 600-700 women in the women club. And I'm the only bloke in there. And I remember certainly when I first did it, and I used to just kind of like cut and paste the similar sort of questions and discussion points. And it just did not work. So like now what I do is I take a question in the man's club and it will be a sentence, maybe two. And in the women's club, I stick it in and then I have to add
a caveat
just like a couple of other paragraphs. I have to give it context, make it a bit richer, a bit more interesting. Do you know what I mean? It just generally requires more words. And you see on the threads in the different groups, just the difference in communication styles. The kind of succinct, more brutal, to the point way that the guys communicate with each other, much more kind of upfront. Don't get me wrong, that does happen in the women's group as well, and there are quite a lot of women that do communicate in that style. But generally, It's just very different. You can feel the energy. It's just really different. And I think we need to acknowledge that. And I think it's more so in a group setting than it is on an individual basis.
Right.
However, what you brought up was relationships, where I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. In a heterosexual relationship, one of the things that will keep the fire lit is that polarity, right? When we are both in our masculine and in our feminine, that difference is what brings us together, right? Makes us kind of attractive to each other, sexuality, and all of that sort of stuff. Those opposite things makes a better partnership, I believe. And we need to watch out for those communication differences, because when we are being man and being woman in that specific setting, the differences are what make us great, but we need to acknowledge them and be mindful that the other person is in theirs.
Yeah. So what examples could you give of when a woman treats a man like a woman, and the difficulty with that, and similarly the other way around? How does the crossover, how does that create friction?
Well, just because of expectation for a start, a kind of expectation, and this happens on a macro scale as well, on a societal level, where I'm going to be possibly a little controversial here.
Do it. I love it.
This idea of getting men to talk.
Yeah.
Right, especially with regards to mental health. Personally, it's part of an answer.
Yeah.
But there's a massive bit of research done by Leeds Beckett University, and which is where what sparked the Movember Foundation and the discussion around men's mental health. Because what we found was, again, for societal or biological reasons, whatever, the healthcare system is largely operated by women, okay, in that caring profession. And as such, all the mental health services were all kind of like designed by women for women. And then what we tried to do was shoehorn men into them. So we tried to shoehorn men into talking therapy, counseling, and all of this. We've got to get men to open up. And you still hear women doing that. Why won't you just open up? Why won't you speak about it? I have to say there's a space for that, because I ended up in hospital with a panic attack when I was going through financial difficulties, because I didn't speak to it.
Yeah.
I didn't speak about it. I didn't tell anyone about it. So it is a problem. But what we have to do, though, is create the correct spaces and understand when we say talk about it, what we're really meaning is communicate about it, get it off your chest, allow it to be expressed, allow it to be externalized, or show guys how to manage their emotions internally, all right? Because that external isn't the only way to help.
And I think that's the important thing, isn't it? That for every, again, we're generalizing, but every man I have come across, every relationship that I've been in with a man he's been that, why won't you talk to me? Why won't you talk to me? And it's been that internalization process that they've been in conflict with. They don't want to talk about it because they don't really know how to navigate that, but also they're just working through it. And sometimes they might be working through the most, because as women often, I know I do it, not as much anymore, we overthink things and then project that. Sometimes Wallace might just be thinking about a game that he'd just been killed on, and it's really pissed him off, and he's just processing the fact that he's a bit pissed off at that particular thing. But because everything's about me, I'm like, why are you mad? What have you done at me? And he's like, I'm not mad at you, but it's the frustration for me is that he's still processing how he's feeling about something, and the way that he's behaving externally is a way that I struggle to cope with.
And there's a load of reasons for that, both societal and biological, right?
Yeah.
So Lloyd's Bank, who spend quite a lot of money on this stuff, they're pretty good as an organization trying to figure out things like this. And I've got a friend who worked there, and what they did a big bit of thing where they looked at group work and the differing communication styles between men and women. Well, that was an outcome that they hadn't really expected. And then they dive deeper in it. And what they were saying is when you're in groups of women, they'll like brainstorm everything external. Let's say it all, right? Good ideas, bad ideas, absolutely wacky ideas, funny stuff, wrong stuff. Do you know what I mean? And they'll get out flip chart and all just, and then they'll come to the answer.
Yeah.
What you'll get with a group of men is they won't say anything until they've thought about it and believe it to be useful to the like a real useful contributing thing, or something that they believe to be correct or impactful. So it's just these two completely, and what they'll be thinking when they hear women going, oh, blah, 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 and just like saying all of the stuff, they're still thinking it, but they think, well, what, that's a stupid thing to say.
Why would you say it? Why would that?
Why would you
It doesn't make
say
sense.
it? Like, what a dumb thing to say. And actually, we laugh, but this has a massive impact on some of the reasons why male managers aren't hiring women and promoting them in the ways that they should be, because when they're in these sort of sessions, they'll be watching their staff and they'll be going, oh, she just keeps saying all this dumb stuff. And actually, this guy seems real sharp and on the money. Whenever he says anything, is really useful. Then we've got the women who do progress, and guess what? They're ones that have clocked this, or that are in their masculine energy, or who communicate through men. And then we end up, as you know, with this kind of weird imbalance, and women trying to be men to compete with them rather than doing it in their femininity, which is what we really need. We need powerful women in their feminine energy.
Find that in corporate. We often find that in corporate is these, you can still be strong and sat within your feminine. You can still be, you can still process externally and still be smart. You can still, you don't necessarily have to wear the hat. However, that's great. I mean, in our space, we're entrepreneurs and we have these conversations. Like, we make a point of, bringing these debates to the table so that the people around us can have these conversations. So in effect, it's nice to be part of that change, but that doesn't happen over in the world of business as much as potentially what it could. And that's where the majority of people sit. Yeah,
and I forget that because I've had like 2 jobs in my entire life. I've run businesses since I was 16 and been involved in sales and all sorts of stuff. So I have been brought into corporates. I have done these talks. I have been involved in panel discussions and stuff like that. So it is moving in that direction. And people like Lloyds Bank are starting to clock this stuff. Because what they're really after is they really realize that actually diversity at a board level makes businesses more profitable. Simple as that. So they have
across the board, not just within the genders, within the pillars of the cultures.
Gender, race, class, ability, physical ability, all of this sort of stuff. When we have a mixed set of life experiences, you get a better organization and more of an insight and some joined up thinking. So it's better for everybody.
It is better for everybody. So instead of having a board of people all sat in the masculine thinking in a certain way, you don't any of that kind of fluidity of thinking to get to things in a different way.
Which brings around the whole point I was saying, which is let's not ignore our differences, because actually our differences are the thing that makes us better as a team. What we have to do is not see where we do fall down as a species is we do struggle with that. We do struggle with having differences, yet not wanting to fight each other. Like that's this real primal thing where that's how our brains work, is that we're going to connect better with people like us. There's always us and them. But I think as long as we keep our conscious awareness around that problem, I think that's a much easier problem to solve than trying to make us all homogenous.
Trying to make us all think in the same way, behave in the same way, outwardly, inwardly, all of those sort of things.
Which one are we going to pick to all be? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you think about it, you identify, as well as being, you identify as being a man. You sit within your masculine, and you tap into. You've heard you talk about this. You tap into your feminine when you need to, but that's where you sit. So if someone, say for example, there was a huge cultural shift, and now everyone's got to sit in the feminine. That's it now.
My inner feminine is Beyonce, by the way. That's
I have no doubt. Mine too. So interestingly, I don't know if you've seen, again as a side, have you seen Black is King on Disney Plus yet?
No.
Oh, go and check it out. It's her new visual album. It's like an ode to the Lion King.
Yes, it's on my list. Yes.
Oh, it's powerful. It's powerful. I thought it was going to cause a lot of ruffles, but it's just a beautiful piece of art. That's an aside. But because Beyonce is like my spirit animal. I forgot what I was saying because I got excited about Beyonce. Then hang on a minute.
We were saying, well, what if everybody has to be in their feminine, like all of a sudden?
That's you wouldn't be a happy bunny, would you? And arguably, you would have a lot of, dare we say it, right? And militant feminists, because there's lots of different types, there's lots of different, but people who are like, no, we must all be the same because things won't be great until equity has happened and everything is equal, and that we like, welcome, you should be sitting in your feminine a bit more, and that's what should be happening naturally.
That's the message that my generation has received. Generally, for lots and lots of us, is that masculinity is toxic, it's dangerous, it's violent, it's the cause of the patriarchy and everything else like that. That is the message we've received over our generation. And what that's done is it hasn't improved anything. If anything, it's made it more insidious and made it worse. The patriarchy, I believe, is a thing. I get shit about that from a lot of men who follow me and in my men's group. It's a rubbish word. Do you know what I mean? I think the word does make men feel alienated, and we almost take fatherhood as being this kind of negative connotations. And I don't think it's been particularly helpful. I understand why it's happened, though. Do you know what I mean? I do understand why. But in the grand scheme of things, we've only been in that sort of patriarchal systems. It's the Industrial Revolution,
couple of 100 years,
capitalism is inherently a toxic masculine energy system. It just is. It's right. We take the things that could be good, competitiveness, drive, determination, building, making things bigger and better, and then we've attached this monetary value to all of that. And then what that means is, if it's not a money generating task, we devalued it. So motherhood, even, I don't want, this is going to cause trouble.
Say it.
Homemaking, family building, we've actually devalued all of that because it's not income generating, right? And that's where the problem started. We've totally devalued that. So whereas actually it's just one of the most vital roles. I mean, even look at things like teaching, like teachers, man, like nurses, these things that those two roles are like
nurture professions
roles in a proper functioning healthy society. Who teaches our children, who helps us when we're sick, and they're just totally undervalued and disrespected, and meanwhile bankers, I don't know,
people who print the money, absolutely, and that's again, I find the whole bloody thing is fascinating. As I go on my own journey within my own feminism, as I, as a lover of men as well as women and everybody in between, I just find that your message so important to be helping bringing people together. Although I've got to ask, are you intentionally polarizing sometimes just to generate debate, or are these genuine thoughts? Because probably the next thing that I want to talk about is the putting the makeup on for the husband when he comes out. I saw you post about that and I knew where it came from.
Oh, in the women's group. I want to talk about that whole conversation actually, because this is really, that brings together so much stuff. So okay, cool. So for me, they are genuine thoughts. Sometimes I mean it to be, sometimes I don't. I find that my style naturally just and I think one of the things when I came up with my concept of the modern man 2-3 years ago, when I found my purpose and on what it is that I'm doing by generating these conversations, is I have been blessed or whatever. Look, not all women, but lots of women will give me the time of day. They will allow me to say things and get things wrong that they probably wouldn't do with other men. So lots of women, and in general, women are 2 or 3 steps ahead of guys with this conversation anyway. But they will, where they would probably normally shred another guy immediately without even properly reading, thinking, they kind of take 10 seconds to go, hang on, but it's Fidel. We know.
I think it's because you come forward with it in love. I think because everything you do is with this spirit of trying to make things better instead of making things worse. It's not woman bashing that you're doing. It's in this spirit. I think that you get that little bit of leeway anyway.
That's when, and it is who I am. My mum was a very staunch feminist. I was brought up by her, but my dad has always been in my life. They were separated when I was young, but my dad is a very masculine man. My mum was like a staunch feminist. She had 4 sons. So she was kind of look at the things that are going wrong for women. Let's look at equality. Let's look at all of this. But you guys still need to be proud to be men. I can't hate you. You're my sons, right? Do you know what I mean? You need to be proud masculine men, but with respect and consideration for women. This doesn't have to be toxic. So I was kind of brought up like that. And I realized how few men have that. And so, yeah, what I come with is very, very genuine. So I do want to spark debate. I do post things that get people thinking, because that's the ability that I've been blessed with and the platform that I'm allowed to have. So I have to use it and push it to its kind of limits, just to get people going, what? And sometimes they're to do with seeing how silly we are about stuff. Like sometimes I will just post real generalizations that people assume to be true. And then when they read them out loud, they go, what a load of rubbish. But you thought like that before you typed on here, don't lie. You know, you thought like that. And it's easy on Facebook to come on and go like that. But hopefully
these things are stemmed in something. When you see things like that, they're stemmed in something, a cliched thought, or, you know, those sorts of things, that they come from somewhere. They've crossed people's minds, even though if they've processed in the outcome and the way they think about it is differently, like you said.
Yeah.
It's so tell me about you know which thread I'm talking about, don't you?
Bad day that was. I had a day off. I took a Friday off. I could have a day off because I can't remember what happened a few days before. It'd been thing, and then the next day I was going wild camping. So I thought, do you know what? I'm gonna have today. I'm gonna chill. I thought, do you know what will be a laugh actually? And I thought this on the Thursday night. I found this. I was rooting around in my folder with different talks in it, and I found this talk called "How to Help Your Man Feel More Manly." And it was I was asked to give this talk to a women's group. I got contacted and they said, will you come and do this talk? Because like we've got a lot of women asking, like, how can they help their man be a bit more man up a bit, like, you know, for want of a better expression. So I did. I delivered this talk and I made these notes, and they were like 17 just bullet points to remind me of kind of like what to say and what to link in my mind, so that my words came out right. That's how I write my talks. Yeah. And then I asked in the Women's Club, I asked because I've learned this lesson before as well. So I'm not the guy that just goes in there and tells them the stuff that they need to know. Would this be useful for you? So did the little thing in there. Do you want me to, I found this talk, How to Help Your Man Feel More Manly. Would that be useful if I popped in here tomorrow? On my day
sheer nosiness.
And they all went, yeah. Ooh, dark.
I've just gone dark. Hang on a minute. It's because Ivy's just come in and knocked the, hang on a minute. There we go.
And a load of them said, yes, obviously, the ones that it was interesting for. This is the problem, isn't it, in a group thing? So the people that thought it would be useful said yes. And so I did the live. And then what I think the biggest mistake was, a lot of the women, while I was doing the live, were like, oh, can you like post the things down so that we can remember what they are? So I just literally cut and paste my notes and stuck them in there. And I went, here's the list. And then there was 17 bullet points of this thing called how to help your man feel more manly. And it was the first one that was the biggest triggery one, because it was like step into your feminine. I think, and then
I just dressed on something like that.
Yeah, I just put dash kind of like makeup, pink heels, like again, just to remind me what I was going to say, because obviously it's big. But they just read that and they were just like, "What are you?" Like, you know. Coming in here, taking us back to being Stepford wives, rather. And one woman joined the group, posted a meme and went, "You there? Fuck off, fuck you, fuck off," and over the fence and fuck off some more. And said, "I just came in here to tell Fidel this," and left again.
Wait to keep bringing the conversation forward. But this is the thing, isn't it? That you've got to, when you see things like that, you've got to know the context in which it's being posted. And this is the same for everything that we see on the internet. Yeah. We've got to know the context with which it's been posted before you start wading in. I had an experience of this, you know, a few weeks ago when I did the big festoon, and somebody had never met me before and had seen a lineup that I'd done for the big festoon, and then got in my inbox and went, "This is a slight against all black people. How dare you that bring a lineup like that to the table?" And I'm like, fucking hell. I had 3 weeks to put this together, and I've tried to make it as widely and broadly diverse as possible. Like, I've tried, and that's just how I showed up to that person. I didn't have any time or any preamble to share, like I'd shared with my audience, my struggle in the weeks leading up to the big festoon, to make sure that we was as diverse as possible. That's just how I showed up. She come across me for that first time. That's what she saw, and that was it. She didn't put in any context in. That's just how I showed up. And I think that it's important that if you're coming across somebody and you see something like that, like, work it out first before you...
Or just start with a question rather than an accusation. That's
Go with
always my kind of
curiosity.
thing. If I feel like accusing, my first thing is start with a question. What did
Yeah.
you mean by this? Is there a
Yeah.
reason for you doing it this way? That's my top tip for the day.
Yeah. In everything, in the mask conversation, in the COVID conversation, in the race conversation, like, start with curiosity,
Correct.
and we can get further forward quicker. For
One of
God's sake.
my top 5 values, that is curiosity.
Yeah.
And so, like, I kind of get it if for the women that saw the list, and again, if we give it some historical background, I get it, because for lots of people, lots of women, that is their experience. Men coming in, telling them what to do, and it's like then they were like, "Well, I hope you're telling the men how they can be," and I'm like, "That's what I do. That is my life. I'm in there every day, helping the guys get better for you, you know."
Yeah.
And this is one thing I've posted in here. I'm in there every day doing that.
Yeah.
Like, of course, the guys are asking as well, and it's like all I'm really trying to do here is help you guys do your part. Like, you know, polarity takes 2 people.
We've got to both come to the table.
Yeah, I do work with women, and it was almost like, but the danger there was that you could see how some women have just shifted so far where we don't have to do anything for men. Like, you know, it should all be men bringing stuff to the table for us. They've got to make up for all of this thing, which is kind of get it again on a societal level, but you can't bring societal stuff to an individual. Like, you know, you kind of can't transplant that same kind of process. Complicated, don't it?
It is complicated, but I love how complicated it is. I love that there are spaces out there where we can have these conversations, because it is so polarizing. There are very few safe spaces, and we'll talk about safe spaces just a sec.
Yep.
Safe spaces where we can have those conversations. When we think about safe spaces, and I work within the entertainment industry, and specifically within the burlesque scene, where there is a lot of political statements that occur, and there's a lot of safety that needs to happen, particularly for the people that are involved in burlesque, that when you are greeted with I guess it's people that are knobheads. We're not talking about men, we're talking about people that are knobheads, and we've got to be really clear with this, that there are people that are knobheads and there are men, and the two are mutually exclusive. You get people that are knobheads, and you get people that are so, but when you work within something that is political and kind of not necessarily designed for the male gaze, although it's sort of sexual and a celebration of the body, you find that people sit, you know, they've got to find safe spaces where it's kind of away from that male gaze.
For sure.
But conversations around how we function as society needs to happen together. We said this right at the beginning of the conversation. There are safe men out there, more safe men than knobheads, that want to come to this conversation.
Correct.
And so many, particularly women out there, because of the, you know, because of the Me Too movement, because of the honestly ongoing lived experience that we have, the bum slapping, the knobheads out there that kind of do spoil it for the rest of mankind.
They do.
It makes us feel uneasy. It makes us feel like, fucking hell, I'm going to get shot down. Or
this is something that I've had to come to terms with, because I was very naive, and I still am. I did my post the other day about pornography and watching porn. Was very, very honest. And when I first started this journey, one of the things that I had to face up to was my male privilege. I was just like, I did the same thing as a lot of, you know, white people when they hit the thing is white privilege, or like, I'm not racist, therefore I don't have any white privilege. I haven't got a problem. This isn't something I need to learn about. This isn't something I need to engage in, because I haven't got a problem, because I'm not racist. And I was kind of like the same. I was like, well, my mum's a feminist, and that was it for me.
And you're not a knobhead.
I therefore need to do no more work on myself. And boy, was I wrong. So I thought, if I'm going to take up this space, I'm going to start talking on these things, and then I need to explore this further. And then on reflection, some of the things that I've engaged in, some of the things that I've said, some of the things that I've witnessed and not stood up for, have definitely needed me to stop and think and acknowledge, for sure. And then further on with this journey, you know, what I hadn't really realized or appreciated was the magnitude and the volume at which women have experienced shitty behavior from men. and just continual. And and most guys don't understand it or even believe it, which is a problem. And I still try and communicate that back to guys. I'm like, guys, man, when we talk about dick pics and stuff like that, like women send them to me.
I bet. I daren't say this out loud.
When I first started having this conversation on my social media platforms, like, come on, like, where does this even come from? It's so far away from what I would think of doing. I struggle to believe it happened at this sort of scale, right? And then my inbox was just absolutely flooded with pictures and videos and horrific stories. And I'm just like, no, are men out there doing it? And it's not just a few. It's happening at this massive scale and affecting women of all ages, cross culture at a huge scale. And I'm left there thinking, oh, geez, like, this is a big problem. And how do we address it? Because you bring it up, guys that will never admit to this behavior. Like they just won't, especially not to other men. This stuff is done secretively. A lot of these guys are pretty good at kind of covering it up because the behavior has always been acknowledged as being bad. So they just know how to pull it off. And yeah, it's difficult.
It is difficult, but again, all of these conversations, the conversation around race, the conversation around gender, the conversation around sexuality, this like awakening of the necessity to not call out, but call each other to be not knobheads is not probably knobheads.
Yeah, that's kind of my whole thing now, where I'm going to be moving forward to, hence the crown and everything else like that. Way that I've finally cracked how I intend to move this conversation forward. How I've always spoken about one of the pivotal key things of masculinity is self-awareness, right?
Yep.
Self-awareness and accountability to yourself.
Yes.
All right. Call yourself a king, behave like a king, think like a king.
Yeah.
And when we start getting men building themselves up and going, hang on a minute, I am a king. This is my realm. This is my kingdom. Do you know what I mean? And all the people that are in it, I'm here to serve. I'm here to protect. I'm here to
respect them, to listen.
And do so properly. That then hopefully will come with a set of kind of self-awareness where we go, do you know what? Actually, I can't engage in that type of behavior anymore, because this is how I now see myself. I see myself up here. I believe I am up here. And that's beneath me, and that's the way we have to do it. We start like that, and then we start seeing women as queens as well, and then that's my dream anyway. But I mean, you can see. I mean, the support that we're getting in the comments. It's so important that we do. It is a self-respect thing. It's a self-awareness piece, because if we all go forward with self-awareness, if we all go forward with respect for each other, and it sounds glib. It sounds glib because it's like the basics. Yeah.
Stop expecting so much of everybody else and just expect of yourself. But if we all do that, then we march forward, and we do it much quicker than we do expecting everybody else to toe the line. Toe your line, and the next person next to them toe their line, and the next person next to them toe their line. And do you know what? It's hard when it comes down to
the first
bit. Be nice.
Starts with like the self-respect. So we have to start seeing ourselves as better. And I think despite what is commonly thought of, so many guys actually have low self-esteem, and that's the cause of this kind of toxic masculinity. It's false confidence, and then that does come with a nasty streak and a negative streak. So actually even when you say kind of like we've got to build men up and stuff like that, it feels a bit like
they've been built up already, but it's been a false platform. It's been a false platform.
It's been a false platform, and they don't really believe it. You see, this is the thing, as we all know, this stuff is really, really internal. And the men that I work with, as soon as you scratch the surface, man, underneath there's very low self-worth there. There's very low self-esteem. They don't really know how to treat themselves well, how to love themselves. Whereas women have been doing this work for a while, for the last generation. There's lots of women who talk about self-love, about empowering themselves and each other and everything else like that. As a group, we talk about empowering men.
How dare they? They've been so empowered so far. My God.
Correct, but with the wrong energy.
Right.
And it's not coming from self-empowerment. It's not coming from thing. We might have power from a structural societal level, but do we have it internally?
Yeah.
And the answer is no in the majority.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just it's gobsmacking that it still goes on. I find again equally exciting that that more of us are having this conversation. I find it equally exciting that, you know, if we get to use our platforms, however, you know, like little they are in our little like corners of the world,
we're making a difference without that.
I'm just going to ask out to the group. What do you guys think about this? I'm interested. I want to kind of throw this out to the table, because this isn't just a conversation between me and Fidel. This is a conversation for all of us. Like, I'm just going to pop up some of these comments that we've got through here.
I was missing it. I had it on private chat, so I couldn't
see it. Yeah, we got loads.
So
we've got, yes, always start with a question. That curiosity is mega, mega, mega important. Emma Louise Dyson, growing up, 90% of my closest friends were boys. My dad always said that I was like a blow with tits. I'm very much in touch with my femininity, but I've always been able to communicate well with men, and sometimes find they're very much easier to get on with. It's less complicated because there's less going on externally, I think. This is such a fascinating conversation. Why do you think that I've heard lots of women say, I'm a bloke's girl. I get on better with blokes than I do with women, because women are far too complicated.
Yeah, my daughter is one of them. My youngest daughter as well. She does hang out with girls a lot, but she says that quite often. And I think that is a lack of understanding about femininity and how women interact with each other. Again, I don't want to be the guy who likes, there's plenty of women out here that talk about this stuff way better than I do. But that kind of makes me sad. It makes me sad when I post about the feminine or stepping into your feminine, how many women react badly to that, and with a total lack of understanding of the power that is within that, and or a desire to kind of like engage in it and learn about that aspect of themselves. And the same goes for men. There's a lot of men that are just like, oh, you know, they're intimidated. They feel uncomfortable around groups of men and stuff, and they'll have large women friendship groups because actually they see that as being softer.
They feel nurtured.
We're real deep with all of this. This is attachment styles, parenting, all of this sort of stuff, and childhood experiences that kind of bring this stuff about. But it's cool. So the whole concept of the modern man and the modern woman is being able to switch between your masculine and feminine energy. We all need to learn how to do both. But for me, the level one is to get real comfortable and real positive about your primary energy. So if you're a man, that's your masculine. If you're a woman, that's your feminine. And I don't know enough about the bits in the middle.
Yeah, and again, that's a whole other conversation. If there's anybody out there, by the way, if there's anybody out there that can join, not this conversation today because we don't have time, but is willing to have a conversation about, you know, anywhere in between the polar, I think that would be a really great conversation to bring to the table. I think there's lots of people in the non-binary, gender fluid, trans community that will come through. In fact, when that does happen, I'll give you a shout.
That conversation with people in that space, they've been really cool and respectful to me. They're like, yeah, we get it. In fact, nobody understands masculine and feminine energy being more than what's between your legs than somebody who's trans.
Right.
So and I've been attacked by people who aren't from that community going, yeah, but you're anti-trans. I'm like, no, I'm not.
It's super protective as well, isn't it? Again, take it into the race. It's like the white savior.
You
get people that are outside trying to protect. Actually, more people, the very fact that we're talking about it allows more people to talk about it, allows the awareness to be raised. Shell Show is saying this is so powerful. Mahmouda Hill is saying respect for all, male or female, shouldn't matter. If you show respect and love, you should get it back in abundance. It's not that it shouldn't matter. I don't think that's what we're saying, that it does matter and that it both should be celebrated.
They both should be celebrated, and respect is given in so many different ways. It's one word, but actually think about what that word actually encapsulates on a practical level in all the different situations, across all the different social media, in person, on stage, in a group. Like, respect is shown in so many different ways that where we have to do, and this is the importance of our differences, is actually respect given to one community is very, very, you would give it in a very, very different way to you would give it in another. And we need to start understanding what that looks like. So respect in my women's group, as a man going into a group of women, showing respect is done in a very different way than the way that I would show respect in my men's group.
Give us some examples. What would that look like?
Well, like I said, so what I wouldn't do in, and this almost sounds very kind of like unmasculine, but I don't believe it to be, because it is done respectfully. So in my men's group, I just go in and I'll post and I'll ask or just say whatever. As a man in a group of women, some of the stuff I'm going to say, do you want to hear this from me?
Right. So
Like,
it's permission
it's useful for me before I just step in. The first thing I did, I set the group up and then I left. And then I got asked to come back. So I came back about 6 months later. And one of the first things I did, you spoke about hump day, is my hump day sex question.
Yeah.
That was almost like one of the second or first things I did in the group. And it just, wow, people were just like, what? Like, you man coming in to a
talking about sex, how dare you?
I think I spoke about domination in the bed. Do you like to be like in charge or not? And they were just like, and I get that now on reflection. It was a massive learning curve for me. I had to
maybe don't go in with that first when you're trying to be a safe guy.
Just everything. It was the way that I worded it. I was just like, just everything was kind of naughty and unthoughtful.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we had a massive conversation about that, and I understood the difference.
But you're taking yourself on this whole learning journey.
Man, yeah, every day is a school day, man.
Like, I see you posting in the same ways in both groups. Not in the same way, sorry. You're posting the same question in a different way in both groups. You're getting different responses. It's almost like you've got this whole, like, not market research, but this kind of research thing.
It absolutely is. Yeah. And it's done with the case. And some women and the guys are like, oh, are you just doing it? Are you using this as a market research thing? I'm like, kind of, yeah, I'm using this to learn for sure.
Why not?
But with the intent that I can take this useful information and impart it to my group of men. I can take this stuff from the men and impart this to the women. This is what groups of men, this is what the women are thinking. This is what the men are thinking. And I can be the kind of like conduit. Yeah, and it's sometimes it's a crappy job to be.
No doubt, because you open yourself up to it, but when you do, it's because the conversation hasn't been taking place. So I speak on behalf of women. I shouldn't speak on. I can speak on behalf of myself. Like when somebody tells you that they are safe, you give them a little test. You give them a little, are you safe though? Wait a second, I've seen where you're not safe here. And there's, again, it's this testing sometimes that happens when you are trying to develop trust with somebody. But what you're doing is you're sitting on the spike and you're saying, yes, I am. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to learn with you. And that's what makes you safe. What
a classic kind of example of the masculine and feminine dynamic, because that is what happens. Right, that is what happens, right? And all of you will know this in your relationship. The women bring that, and they will blow their hurricane upon you. And what they're looking for the masculine to do is hold his nerve, to be that masculine, that safety, that solidity. And even if they're wrong or buried in the wrong place, what they're doing is being true and being true to themselves. Whether you agree or disagree, it's like, well, I've thought about this. This is where I am. Or if they do need to lean into the wind a little bit and go, okay, I'm going to go with you here, but this is still me. This is where I am, and this is what I believe in. This is what I'm doing. And you won't blow me over. And actually, that's what leads the feminine to feel safer, because they trust in that masculine. And that's what we need. It's the container for the liquid. It's it's the oak tree and the wind. It's all of that stuff that's throughout nature, and that's the masculine feminine dynamic to a T. It is absolutely.
So
the women test me on a daily basis.
It's all right, men test me on a daily basis. They don't actually. Do you know what? I'm very, very lucky that I test Wallace. If you really think about it like that, the way that I am an absolute hurricane is the way I would describe myself. Well, most people that come across me is that I'm a force to be reckoned with. To have Wallace hold the space for me. Even when I don't want him to, sometimes I want to be like, come on, meet me where I'm like I'll test him. I won't even know that it is that I'm testing him. And they'll just stand steady away, which is what I need.
And it's hard for men to do that. I've struggled with it myself, when in the full force of that hurricane, sometimes you do just want to run away. Sometimes you get, no, do you know what? I can't deal with this. And so that takes a lot of practice, acknowledgement, standing in your masculine, doing the work that you need to do. And it's a never ending kind of.
For everybody. Kerry Leather saying, I'm so grateful for my feminine and masculine energies, both so different, have enabled me to explore so many opportunities. She then goes on to say, But that's quite a big pressure that we put on men too, right? Expecting them, so kind of going at them, doing that testing, and then them, expecting them to either hold firm or allow themselves to still hold firm, but be open to
The thing is, it's in the moment, all right? So in the moment, you hold firm. You can then go away, readjust, think about it, and then come back and go, listen, I listened to what you had to say. This is my thoughts on it. I'm going to make some adjustments here. And that's the masculine way. That is the pure high masculine way, all right? Doing that in reality on a daily basis or a weekly basis,
hard.
You know what I mean? Expecting perfection. And I've been in relationships where, because of my role and what I put myself forward as, women have expected almost like perfection from me in those circumstances. And I haven't been able to live up to that. I'm not, because I am a mere man. At my core, like I'm not, and I'm quite open about it, and quite open about the fact that I'm on my own journey. I might be a few steps ahead of the guys that I'm coaching or the guys that I'm working with, but I'm learning every day, and I'm also doing the work on myself to become that thing.
And that's not going to be fixed in inverted commas over just a couple of years if you've got a whole lifetime of conditioning to bring you to where you are now. Same for everybody. But it's that acknowledgement and acceptance. Oh, I like this question. Can you give us an insight into the grumpy old man syndrome? If we understand it, we can deal with it. Are they just in search of a bit of peace and quiet?
Sometimes, a bit of peace and quiet. What they probably don't know is what makes them happy. Well, they probably certainly as old men. As men, I'm watching my dad go through it. He's having almost the opposite effect. He's turning into a happier old man than he ever was. But like so much of our who we are tied in with our job, with our purpose, with the work that we do, with our role within society, with our role within our families and everything else like that. And then as you get older, all of that stuff is stripped away. Your position in the hierarchy as alpha or whatever is kind of like getting stripped away, and you're becoming less and less valuable in a masculine sense. I'm not physically strong anymore. I'm not financially powerful anymore. My role in society has been taken away, my sense of worth. And all of that can just lead to real unconscious dissatisfaction, especially if they didn't get to where they wanted to do in the first place in their life. If they never did that, and so that when they can feel death coming upon them, and they know that they're going to reflect over their life and that they didn't achieve the things or hit the heights that they wanted to, that can just bring it. So grumpy old man syndrome can be like depression, or it can just be something I'm looking forward to being, which is just a grumpy old man going around people around the ankles with my walking stick and bugger off.
I love it. So we've got a couple of quick questions, then we are running out of time. So Mahmuda is saying, quick question: do find men don't express their emotions, especially if it's about love? Well, had a big issue with this weekend where I wanted to bang a father and son's head together. Had individual conversations with both and all good. Put them together and they couldn't get either to talk. They nodded their heads at me but didn't express themselves. We did talk about this earlier on.
Yeah, and I want to pull that thing, this whole idea that this is something I see women say all the time. Men don't express themselves well. They don't talk about things properly. No, they don't do it the way you want them to, or the way that you expect them to.
Yeah.
If people aren't responding to you in the way that you want to, the first place to begin is yourself. So what am I doing wrong here? You're facilitating the conversation. It's not them that's doing it not well. It's probably the way that you're trying to get them to, or the expectations that you have of what well or good is. Actually, just stick them on a fishing trip together. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of men don't even need to say words between themselves. They don't. Yeah. But guys just do shoulder to shoulder stuff. And do you know what? At the end of it, they'll just look at each other. They just need to fix something together or build something together. And no words need to be said. They'll just look at each other. And at the end of it, they'll hug it out and give each other a little nod or a wink of the eye, and they'll move on. Yeah. So we don't all need to have these deep, meaningful conversations. And a lot of men do struggle with that, verbalizing their emotions. But that doesn't mean we're wrong or bad or useless for not doing so.
Yeah, that shoulder to shoulder thing, again, from a mental health point of view, is super powerful. When guys are saying to other men, "Oh, we need to talk," or "Talk to me, I'm here," what you're saying, that talking isn't necessarily talking. That talking is the knowledge that you've got somebody to sit on a log with and swing your legs.
For sure.
That is that knowledge. It's that you don't have to be on your own. So by saying, men, you need to talk, isn't necessarily that. Is guys, you need to know that you have somebody, and that somebody isn't going to ask anything of you other than to sit on the branch and swing your legs, go fishing, or, you know, have that internal processing with someone by your side to hold the space for you while you do it. You don't have to do anything. Sometimes even my sister in
my men's group, the messages I get on a weekly, daily basis, actually, from the lurkers in there are just like, do you know what? I don't contribute, I don't post, but I see what other men are going through, and it's changed my life, saved my life. So not just changed my life. I get messages at least monthly telling me that the group has saved their lives. They've been for of suicide and stuff like that. And these are from guys that don't contribute. They're not talking. What they're doing is they're just from having that space of their only men only space, and seeing that other guys are going through it, knowing that they do have a space where they can talk about it if they want to. That's been enough for them to pull them back to
just know that space is there where they can go and stand shoulder to shoulder, where they will be understood. If they were to, they don't necessarily have to. And, you know, like male suicide is the #1 killer of men under the age of 45 in the UK. Crazy statistics based on this. You know, we were talking about false platforms and false idols of the patriarchy and what have you. It's not what it is, isn't it?
I've also got something controversial. I don't know, have we got time to...
Yeah, we got time, babes. I ain't going anywhere. I'm here.
There's a weird thing about the suicide rate. So, and I don't like it for quite a few reasons. It's cool. Normally when people want to speak to me about being a man or masculinity, it's about men's mental health, and almost like we're trying to portray men as this kind of like broken. And the women can relate to that because they're like, oh, men are broken.
I can fix them.
We can fix them, or we can hug them. We can do it in a real feminine way. Like, and we feel safer with a load of broken men with mental health issues, right?
Makes sense.
It's safer because they're not dangerous, right? What we are afraid of is men in their powerful masculine energy. That's fearful because I think of that as physicality, it's dominance, it's overpowering. So actually, it suits us better to see men as this thing, whereas actually it's nonsense. Men and women suffer from mental health issues at the same rate. Right? The reason why in fact, women engage with mental health services a lot higher, so the rate is lower for men doing it because of those reasons I spoke about earlier.
That we talked about earlier,
The systems aren't in place to suit us.
Makes sense.
And finally, men are just better at committing suicide. It's true. With the methods we use, we are inherently stronger, more and capable of violence, including towards ourselves. All right, so we'll use guns, we'll blow ourselves up, we'll set ourselves on fire, we'll hang ourselves, we'll jump off buildings, right? Women don't do that. Women take pills, drink things, cut themselves, stuff like that. This is a triggery conversation.
It is a triggery conversation. We'll put a caveat on the title.
Yeah, okay, thanks. But generally, men choose more violent methods, so we are more successful at it. There's also a thought process where men will go, to make this situation better, I will sacrifice myself. It is better off without me in it.
Yeah.
And women are like, actually, it'll be less than that. So we have this view that the suicide rate for men is thing because we need to feel sorry for men, and actually they're suffering worse than women. They're not. It's all on the same level. We're just better at it, and that's the truth that we need to bring into play here, because this sympathy and this view that that men are broken on a level that women aren't, or whatever, and the language that comes behind it, I don't think it's very useful, and it's not empowering.
Got you. I get you. Kerry's just saying, I definitely don't feel safe at the thought of society full of men who are broken and who have mental health issues. Yeah, same. Like, I want nothing more than the men in my life. I've been sorely disappointed by many of the men in my life. I want nothing more for them to feel strong and empowered. I want to feel strong and empowered. And I think this is kind of where we bring this conversation to, is that's what we want for each other at the end of the day, whether we sit in our feminine or within our masculine, going forward with the respect for each other, the self-awareness, and then we move side by side, shoulder to shoulder, accepting our differences, and that our differences are powerful as fuck when we bring them together, understand and acknowledge each other, is actually where we want to be going.
So for all the women out there, just tell your men that, and which is where my talk was coming from in the women's group, which is how to help your man feel more masculine. Right? That if women want to contribute, start with the men in your life and start understanding how you can bring that masculine energy out in them, because that is the elixir. That is the thing, the medicine. All right. In the same way that we're seeing this abundance of women who are stepping into their powerful feminine energy and calling themselves queens and behaving like them and wearing crowns and producing all of this stuff. We're seeing women do it. Like, how many men have you seen do this?
Yeah.
I can think of quite a lot of women who wear crowns and like talk about it and this, that, and the other, and being how many men are you just like who are just out there owning it?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
a king, and what? We're just not doing it, and that's kind of where I'm headed. That's where my space is. That's what we do. We're going to be doing, man. We're going to be making kings.
I love it. Fidel, what's coming up for you really quickly? How do people get involved? How do people hang out with you? They should, because you are a wonderful person to have in your life.
Facebook is my main platform. That's where all the fun happens. On my personal profile on Fidel Beauhill. The Modern Man Club is a Facebook community. It's free for men. The Modern Woman Club is a Facebook community that's free for women.
Yeah.
My website is modernman.org.uk.
Love it.
I'm with you. I'm writing a book at the moment, The Modern Man's Guide to Divorce.
We're going to be book buddies, aren't we?
All the stuff, man. It's all coming. September is coming. September's the launch where I'm going to be launching this kind of the kind of new brand. I'm going to be doing more online programs and stuff like that. So just watch this space. It's going to be exciting. I'm buzzing. I'm full of energy and
it is visceral. I can see it in everything that you're doing. It is super exciting just to be a part of your journey, to be your friend, and also to see you kind of going where it is that you're going, and in the spirit with which you're going forward. So thank you for being incredible. Thank you for being a voice for the strong men out there that we love. Fidel Beauhill, everybody, the Modern Man. I'll see you backstage. That was Fidel Beauhill. What an incredible show this morning. We do not shy away from conversations. Good morning, Ivy.
I didn't just wake up.
She didn't just wake up. She's been up for a little while. But so many of you enjoyed the conversation this morning. Please do, if you want to carry on the conversation, either go and hang out with Fidel in the Modern Women Club or the Modern Man Club. Whoever you are, go carry on the conversation, or you can carry on the conversation. The IATQB, have it spelled like this. IATQB stands for I am the Queen Bee, you are too, or the King Bee, or the Royal Bee, whatever you are. Have an incredible Wednesday, and I will see you bright and breezy in the morning, 8 o'clock at the show, Rise Up Show. Have a great day, you guys.